And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical weather bulletin for August the 5th. Still 2 tropical cyclones out there right now, and one of them's dying off. Isaias at long last, moving through the eastern seaboard of the United States. Hagupit, a tropical depression still at this point, according to our estimates on day 218 of the year so far. In the Atlantic, we've still got a 10% chance of development for another area of interest, which is near Bermuda. That is likely to sink towards the west there and is not likely to develop. In the Eastern Pacific, day 83 of hurricane season, a 10% chance for an area of interest that will develop later on in the next week. That could develop down the line, but at the moment, not likely. In the Western Pacific, we've got what's left of Hagupit, still a depression there, and 3 areas of interest. The most potent one could be one that develops off the coast of the Philippines later the week and possibly strikes Taiwan as another typhoon. In the Indian Ocean, we are tracking a broad area of interest that's about to make landfall over eastern India. So let's take a look at the satellite imagery. This is what the North Atlantic is looking like right now, and as you can see, not looking that great for the Invest. 94L was its tag. And what's left of it is likely to drop down towards the west-southwest over the next few days. If you look further north, you would have seen what's left of Isaias, but there's not much to see. It's not that pretty right now, I've got to say. The East Pacific looks like this, so you can see that 10% area hasn't yet got there. It will come from some of those thunderstorms down there towards the southeast, towards the coast of Central America, but the rest of the Eastern Pacific looking very quiet still at this point. Long-range models are suggesting that there could be a bit of activity later on in the month. In the Western Pacific then, I've not put the markers down because you probably wouldn't see very much in terms of what's actually going on down on the ground, but you can see Hagupit there still blowing up decent amounts of convection and generally a lot of disturbed weather down there in the tropical zones towards the equator. A lot of thunderstorms sweeping along towards the west there in the Philippine Sea. The South Pacific looking extremely quiet. You wouldn't really expect anything other than that here. A few little thunderstorms over the Solomon Islands, and the Indian Ocean, you can see that potential tropical cyclone, but it would appear that most of the convection from that has already moved inland over India and even into Nepal, so looks like that's not going to develop, but there could be tropical storm force winds. Sea surface temperatures off the coast of Mexico are fairly warm, around 30 degrees plus, and the Gulf of Mexico also fairly warm too. The western coast of Florida, the hot points of the Gulf. The warmest points of the Caribbean are the northwest off the coast of Cuba, stretching over to the Belize area and towards Honduras as well. The rest of the Atlantic still fairly warm. The area that Isaias has been over still holding on to around 26-27 degrees Celsius. The Indian Ocean, we are still looking at that area there. It's over very warm waters, 30 degrees plus. So you can never rule anything out when the sea surface temperatures are that warm. And in the Western Pacific, still boiling hot here as well, as you would expect. 30 degrees plus over large parts of the Philippine Sea and the South China Sea. But the hottest point is in the Gulf of Tonkin there, with a little area of 32 off the coast of Vietnam. And looking at the anomalies then, you can see them once again here. Still the La Nina effect going on in the eastern part of the Pacific, which looks like it's going to continue to suppress activity on the eastern side. The Atlantic, though, generally above average. The only little bits that are at or below average are areas that were affected by Isaias and by Hannah last week. On August the 5th, 1962, it was a solitary cyclone, but a very powerful one. Typhoon Opal was making landfall as a Category 5 in Taiwan. I believe the winds there were around 165 miles per hour at peak. Some reports suggesting that it could have been 175. Nonetheless, a very powerful typhoon that was making landfall and would then go on to affect China. Nothing else was active on this day elsewhere, though. Of course, last year in 2019, we did also have a landfall in Japan from Francisco. So the next name on the Atlantic naming list, we're already slightly cyclone weary, is Josephine. In the Eastern Pacific, it's Elida. In the Central Pacific, the next name on list 1 is Hone. Over in the Western Pacific then, the next name on the list here is Yangmi, followed by Mekhala. In the North Indian Ocean, the next name on list 1 is Gati. In the Southern Hemisphere, I know we're not expecting anything anytime soon, but if we did have a Australian region cyclone, it would be called Imogen, followed by Joshua. In the Southwest Indian Ocean, Alicia is the first name, and in the South Pacific, it's Yolanda. That's all for now. We'll be back with another tropical weather bulletin tomorrow. Check out our new look cyclone tracker on the Force 13 website for the latest up-to-date information. You can also find us, of course, on our YouTube channel, search Force 13, and also on Facebook and Twitter, Force 13 at Force 13 on Twitter for the latest updates. You can also help the project become even better by becoming an Ultimate Fan on YouTube. To see the full list of Ultimate Fan benefits and to join, visit youtube.com/Force13/join. With a special thanks to our top supporters this month. You can also check out our growing merch store so you can show Force 13's colours wherever you go. You can also find a link to our Discord server underneath this video in the description.